What's going on, Socialites? Ryan here with the Global Pokemon Society, bringing you a special video going over what I believe the top 10 Pokemon in our upcoming Scarlet and Violet Draft League should be. Now, if you have followed along with our Draft League, you'll know sometimes the teams don't evaluate the Pokemon as they should, i.e. last season when Cresselia, who was like a number 1 or number 2 Pokemon in Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl doubles, fell all the way to like the 13th pick. Just dropped. The bottom dropped down, Cresselia just fell like crazy, and we've had a couple other times where like the number 1 overall pick or the first couple picks, you just, when you go back to the team review and say, well, this is when this team decided to join the C ranks because they picked Slowbro as the number 1 Pokemon in this draft. So I'm trying to help out these coaches. If you are a coach watching this and you find yourself in the top 10 or so picks of the draft, and you see some of these Pokemon available, you probably want to pick them. And if you're not familiar with Draft League, or if you're just getting into Draft League with our channel, welcome. Thank you for being with us, and hopefully this video gives you a little bit of insight as well. First off, I want to start off with a couple honorable mentions. Because what's a top 10 video without adding a couple honorable mentions? That way you have more than 10, right? Like that's the way you cheat. That's the way you cheat on top 10 videos. You add some honorable mentions. Number 1, the bread and butter for our honorable mentions, Corviknight. We saw a lot of Corviknight if you played competitive singles in Sword and Shield. It's still doing the same thing. You kind of want to max out on defense though. The way terrestrialization and some of the Pokemon that we'll get to later on this list have warped the meta is, if you're a defensive Pokemon, you kind of want to just specialize in your best stat and then have another Pokemon that specializes in the other. So Corviknight, specialize in that defense for that bulk, use the body press, use your Rocky Helmet to get some chip on physical attackers. You could also run leftovers, of course. Corviknight, one of the few good Pokemon that still has Defog. Really good. Again, Corviknight, just bread and butter. If you're somewhere in the middle of the draft, around number 10 or so, and Corviknight's still available, it's definitely not a bad pick. And you can do quite a bit of Corviknight. Maybe you don't want Body Press, or maybe you don't want U-Turn. Or maybe you don't want Defog. Maybe your opponent for some reason just doesn't set up hazards. I mean, you can set up your own hazards as well. What? Corviknight lost Stealth Rock? Okay, that's just a shame. Okay, never mind. You can't do that. Forgive me. But you can set up with Bulk Up. You could do like a Bulk Up Brave Bird set. You know, something like that with leftovers. You could do Iron Defense, etc. Like, there's a few things you can do with Corviknight. But it's basically just the bread and butter defensive Pokemon, Defogger. That's what you want. Our second honorable mention is going to go to Annihilate. Now, Annihilate is a very good Pokemon in Scarlet and Violet. But I don't think it cracks the top 10 because it really only has a couple good sets. One of the ways I evaluate Pokemon Draft League is how many different ways can I use this Pokemon. If I can only use it one way, it better be really good at what it does. Annihilate's pretty good at what it does, but it's got to be really good if it can only do like one thing. Annihilate can do a couple things. The most common is a bulky bulk up set, as you see here, with max special defense, some HP, a little bit of speed creep. Just bulk up, Draining Punch, Rage Fist, use your natural bulk, do all that. You could run leftovers. I got a Lumberry on there because one of the ways teams will try and wear you down is through burn, through toxic. But that's a common set. Another set, if you play competitive, is Resto Chesto, where it's basically this same set, except instead of taunt, you do rest. And you run a Chesto Berry, so that you wake up. We ban rest in our competitive singles draft leagues, just because we do play on Wi-Fi, on cartridge, and you got a 20-minute timer, and if Pokemon are resting several times throughout a match, that doesn't help with matches finishing on time. The second set is a Choice Scarf. Annihilate gets Final Gambit with the largest HP stat for any Pokemon that has Final Gambit, so you can just nuke something right away. Still got the Rage Fist, still got Close Combat, and you got U-Turn. Like, it's not bad. Like, that is a set that can take teams by surprise. That's our honorable mentions. We're going to move on to our number 10, which is going to be Iron Valiant, the Paradox Gardevoir / Gallade. This Pokemon can run a variety of sets, like how I was saying with Annihilate, but you only get 1 or 2 sets. Corviknight, you only have a couple sets. Iron Valiant, you can run a bunch of sets. It has a lot of good coverage moves. You can run it. Special is the main way to run it, but you can run it physical. You can run it mixed. You can run a bunch of different items. The reason it's not as high on the list, that it only makes it into the top 10, is mostly its frailty and its physical stat, which is the 130 over here. It really doesn't have a lot of good physical moves. You got Close Combat, but that's really it. Like, your Fairy Stab is Spirit Break. Like, that's not the best. You don't get access to Play Rough or anything. It has Knockoff. It has stuff like Leaf Blade, but you're missing out on that really nice 130. So a lot of times you're going to be off this 120 special attack, which is okay. And the 116 speed is good. The typing is great. Fighting Fairy is great. And again, it gets good moves. So this is a booster energy set right here. So you come in, activate your Quark Drive. That's giving you a +1 speed, basically. So 50% speed. A Choice Scarf without being locked in. Moonblast, Shadow Ball, Thunderbolt, Close Combat. Just go wrecking on people with that. Choice Specs, kind of the same thing. Except this time, instead of Close Combat, you're going to have Focus Blast. Try and hit really strong with those special attacks. You could also run Choice Scarf. This is more so if you want to run Trick, because most of the time if you're going to run Choice Scarf, you're going to want to just run the Booster Energy instead, so that you don't have to be locked into one move. But if you feel like Trick is a good option, then the Choice Scarf set is for you. Iron Valiant doesn't get like any momentum. It doesn't get Volt Switch like some of the other Paradox future forms do. And the last one's a Life Orb set. This is probably the best set if you want to go all physical. Drain Punch, you could also do Close Combat. I think Close Combat would also be pretty good on this, just for immediate damage. Spirit Break, which again is your Fairy Stab and Knockoff. And then the Swords Dance, that way your Spirit Breaks are actually doing damage. So yeah, like Iron Valiant, there's a lot of different sets it can do, but the Choice Scarf set is pretty weak, physical set's pretty weak. Like, mostly you're just going to see these two. Booster Energy, which again, if you can play around it, you should be alright. Like, you're not going to get hit too hard with these. If you have like a decent poison Pokemon, Iron Valiant's not going to really get through you. And then Choice Specs too, which hits pretty hard, but again, if you have like a special wall, you should be okay. It just hasn't really done it for me. unlike some of these other Pokemon. So moving on from number 10, number 9 is Torkoal. Now you might be thinking like, whoa, you went from Iron Valiant, who you got 4 different sets up here, down to Torkoal, who you only have 2. Technically, it's not just Torkoal. This is because Sun is an S tier team building strategy right now because of the Scarlet Paradox Pokemon. Mainly stuff like Slitherwing, even stuff like Sandy Shocks, even Screamtail is seeing a lot of play thanks to Sun and Torkoal. So Heat Rock, you want to keep that Sun up, you know, use some support set, Lava Plume, Rapid Spin, Yawn, Stealth Rock. You could also run Terra Grass with Solar Beam and have more of like a special attack. It's not Torkoal itself, it's the fact that Sun is really good that bumps Torkoal up to number 9 for me. If Sun wasn't good, Torkoal wouldn't be on here, right? But Sun is really good, and that makes Torkoal worth picking in the top 10. Number 8, we got Dragonite. Dragonite has really taken off this generation thanks to Terastallization and Terra-type Normal to go with its extreme speed. Because thanks to the multi-scale ability, you get a free setup. So usually after a Dragon Dance, normal extreme speed Dragonite can clean up most weakened teams, and every frail offensive Pokemon can't even touch it. So you got the basic set right here, which is heavy duty boots, extreme speed, earthquake, ice spinner. I see some teams use roost as well, and then the Dragon Dance, of course. Could also run a choice band set for more immediate damage if you don't want to waste the time going for the Dragon Dance and you just want to start firing off with those extreme speeds. You can definitely run choice band. It's very strong. Dragon Claw, Fire Punch, Ice Spinner. You can run Earthquake over Fire Punch. And this one's not really a set in particular, but Encore is a move that Dragonite got this generation, which is definitely something that's been seeing play recently. So it's something to think about when you're picking Dragonite or when you're going up against a Dragonite. You can't really afford to try and set up alongside them or take your time trying to set up rocks or whatever if you're like a unaware Pokemon, or if say you're a defense Pokemon and you're going for like, say you're Corviknight, right? And you're going up against E-Speed Dragonite. And you roost, they can Encore you into that. That allows them to get more Dragon Dances up, and you can't do anything like the body press now that they're Terra Normal. So, yeah, while this one does kind of only one thing with the extreme speed, it does it so well that it makes it into number 8 on our list. Number 7 is going to be Dragapult. Dragapult has quite a few sets. It's just been doing so well this generation, continuing on with what it did in Sword and Shield. Choice Spec, still a great set. Draco Meteor, Shadow Ball, you know, Fire Blast, Thunder, whatever you want for that kind of third move, and then U-turn for momentum. Dragapult's the fastest thing around, that beautiful 142 speed. Choice Band is also very popular. Choice Band, last generation, couldn't really do much because Dragapult didn't have a physical ghost attack to use. But thanks to Terastallization and Terra Blast, you can Terra Ghost and use Terra Blast to have an 80 base power physical ghost attack. So Choice Band has been seeing quite a bit of play now. Sucker Punch for priority as well, and U-turn again. And the last set is a Will-O-Wisp Hex set. You could also run stuff like Thunder Wave. You could run Dragapult a little bit bulkier as well. Running with leftovers if you want to go into bulk. Do Will-O-Wisp there. There's quite a bit you can do with Dragonite. Its main sets are going to be the Specs or the Choice Band, but again, you can run some support stuff. Great Dragon Ghost typing, of course, we all know that. And just the speed alone, like, this will outspeed a lot of Choice Scarfers that your opponents might try and use in Draft League. So, having that on your team is a huge boon for you, and I definitely think it's like close to a top 5 Mon, but not quite. Number 6, gonna be Chien Pao, the Dark Ice Legendary. This Pokemon's just been cleaving through teams. Now, it does have a lot of weaknesses. It's pretty frail overall, but it has a very nice speed stat, 135. We've only seen Dragapult so far faster than that on this list. And this Pokemon crushes Dragapult, right? Like Sucker Punch, like Dragapult wants nothing to do with Chien Pao. Sucker Punch or Ice Shard. And a very good 120 attack stat, which becomes even stronger when you take into account Sword of Ruin, reducing your opponent's defense by 25%. Crunch for your Dark Stab. Ice Spinner if you want something more reliable. Sucker Punch, Sacred Sword. This is a Choice Band set. Just getting the most damage as you can. You could also run a Swords Dance Life Orb set with either Ice Shard or Sucker Punch. You could run Icicle Crash if you want a little more damage and the flinch chance. You gotta weigh that with the 10% reduced accuracy compared to Ice Spinner. And another set you could think about is just slapping some boots, slapping some Tims on Chien Pao. Definitely not bad. But this Pokemon just deals so much damage. It's so fast. Like, its offensive stats are so great. It just barely scrapes on the edge of our top 5. Number 5, we're going with Goldango. This Pokemon is currently seeing the most play, or close to the most play. It's either number 1 or number 2. The next Pokemon might be number 1, now that I think about it. But this guy was seeing the most play for a while in Scarlet and Violet OU for 6v6 singles. The main reason for Goldango is its ability, Good as Gold, which makes it immune to status moves. And no, that's not like Garganacl's Purifying Salt, where it's immune to status. It's immune to status moves. This blocks Defog. This blocks Taunt. This blocks, well, blocks like the Thunder Wave Will-O-Wisp Toxic that causes status. Blocks Encore. Blocks Parting Shot. Blocks Whirlwind. Like, you can start setting up nasty plots on Ting Lu and it can't Whirlwind you out. If you're on a balloon, what's he gonna do? Sometimes they don't run anything other than the Earthquake. Scarf is the main set that you're gonna see. Shadow Ball, Make It Rain. Focus Blast with the Terra type fighting, and Trick to shut down defensive Pokemon. Talked about the Air Balloon. Helps you get off a free nasty plot so you're not getting hit with any Earthquakes. You could also run Terra type Flying. Not a bad idea. And just, you can even run it bulkier. Like, if you want to run nasty plot Recover and your dual stab, again, on a balloon, Terra type Fairy or Terra type Flying to make yours, to give yourself a good defensive typing. Like, you could do that with Goldango. Goldango, like, you can't stop Goldango from setting up. You can only try and kill it. And if your math is wrong, and all of a sudden they're bulkier than you expected them to be, and they can recover stuff off or get off another nasty plot and then KO you, well, that's all Goldango needs. But it just shuts down so many playstyles with its ability alone that it doesn't really matter what you do. You could run a Choice Specs easily. Nothing wrong with that. Number 4, we got Chi-Yu. This was the other Pokemon I was talking about that I think is the most used right now. in competitive singles. But this guy is the special version of Chien Pao. See that huge 135 special attack, a nice 100 base speed, so it's just fast enough for what we want it to do. And it also has a decent 120 special defense, so it can take some special hits that are neutral at least. Choice Scarf is a popular set. Dark Pulse, Flamethrower, Overheat, Psychic. You could also run stuff like, you know, I don't know if I would recommend Memento, but I've seen it. You could run Terra Blast, which we'll go over. In the spec set, we're running Terra-type Grass with Terra Blast, but you could also run that in the Scarf set. Overheat just does so much damage. Like, 90% of Chi-Yus are going to have it, along with Flamethrower. Flamethrower is reliable, but Overheat just fries the chicken. You get the full bucket at this KFC when you use that Overheat. But yeah, Specs is just for huge damage when you need it. And the base 100 speed is like a little lacking. Like we're in a generation now where speed, you know, there's a lot of fast Pokemon. So I don't know how often you'll be able to get away with Choice Specs Chi-Yu. But again, it is Draft League. Not everything can be good. And Chi-Yu is great. And you can also run a Nasty Plot Heavy Duty Boot set, Will-O-Wisp. Just, again, destroy things. You get a Nasty Plot off with Chi-Yu, I don't think anything can survive. Number 3 is the Great Tusk. The Paradox from the past, Donphan. You can run this guy so many ways. This is the epitome of what I said earlier in the video, with being able to decide week in and week out what you want your Pokemon to do, and not allowing your opponents to say like, hey, I know he's gonna do this or that. If you've watched my battles, you'll see I will use the same Pokemon 6 different ways throughout the course of a season. In our most current season, I took down that championship by running my team completely different than I'd ran it all season. My opponent ran his team exactly how I expected him to. I ran my team complete 180. Brought different abilities, different attacks, just a complete different strategy, and got that 2-0 sweep, the 5-time champ. What can I say? That's how we do. But yeah, you can run Booster Energy. You get a Rapid Spin off with Great Tusk. And then with the Booster Energy for an extra 30% in your attack. Huge Earthquakes, huge Close Combats, huge knockoffs. Like, it's a pretty good lead Pokemon, because usually your opponent leads with something more passive. Trying to set up hazards, trying to, you know, build momentum slowly. And you just Rapid Spin on them. They ain't ready, and boom, you go to town. Choice Scarf is also good. Great Tusk has Ice Spinner. Ain't bad, like you hit those flying types. But it's got a pretty decent 87 speed. You can outspeed a lot of other Choice Scarfers who like to settle into that 80 or so speed range. Like I talked about Goldango. It's a popular Choice Scarfer, only 84 speed. You can Headlong Rush, which is the ground version of Close Combat. You can knock off spam very easily. You can run Assault Vest. Imagine how bulky this boy is with the Assault Vest on. Able to do things like Earthquake, Body Press if you want to go in on the defense. Knock off, Rapid Spin. You could just run a lead set with leftovers, Stealth Rock, Rapid Spin, Body Press, Earthquake. Definitely not bad. Or you could run a Banded set. Again, depending on the speed tiers of the team that you're playing against, maybe this speed is good for you. 87 base speed. There's just so many ways. Like Great Tusk, it's got It's the Fluttermane of physicals. And we know Fluttermane is banned. We know Fluttermane is busted. But this man's the Fluttermane of physicals. If he had... And ground fighting's like good typing, don't get me wrong. But at least flying types can do something. If it had like the crazy dual stab like Fluttermane had, like this Pokemon might be banned. But it's also holding back from the speed, right? Like obviously Fluttermane had the crazy 135 speed. So this is holding back, but just the pure physical bulk and then the great attack. Like Great Tusk is going to do great things. If Great Tusk drops to number 5, then the whole draft is going wrong, right? That's mine. Like this is a guaranteed top 5 mon. I'm putting number 3, which means it's a guaranteed top 5 mon. I think like these 4 are like guaranteed top 5 mons. We're going to get to number 2 and number 1 shortly, but I think Chi-Yu should definitely be in the top 5, and then Great Tusk should definitely be in the top 5. Some of these other ones, you start to bleed a little bit, like once you get a Dragapult, and then, okay, yeah, then you're in like top 10. If you really wanted to go, try and go for a Sun team, you can go Torkoal, but just be careful because some of those other Pokemon might not wheel back on you. You might not get all those Paradox Pokemon that you want with Torkoal. It's a risky one. The team is a top 5 team if you get it, but it's a risky one to draft it. Okay, number 2. The Iron Bundle. Again, if you follow Scarlet Violet OU, you know, wait, this man's banned. Well, we gotta have some fun in our draft league, right? We gotta have some spice. Yes, the Iron Bundle. It doesn't have a lot of tools in its arsenal, but the tools it has are crazy. 136 speed, only outsped by Dragapult. And this thing can cook Dragapult. Like, it cooks the physical Dragapult for sure. If you're like a physical choice band Dragapult, like that 144 defense is good. Is good. You can EV yourself to survive physical Dragapult if you think that's what your opponent's bringing, and then cook them. Cook them with that Ice Beam. But yeah, this is Booster Energy set. Get that speed boost so you're bonkers fast. Bonkers. Hydro Pump, Freeze Dry, Ice Beam, Taunt. You can run a Choice Scarf set with U-Turn over Taunt. You run a Choice Spec set just for crazy damage. And since you're so fast, you can run Modest. You don't need to be timid on these. You can run Modest. You want to run timid on the Booster Energy because you want the, speed boost, but still. You don't even need to run all this speed. Like, look at this. You can go all the way down to here. You can run just 36 speed, and you can run the rest in, like, defense. You can make yourself bulky. That's how crazy this guy is. Right? You can do something like that. Like, this isn't bad. You still get the booster energy, so now you're crazy fast still. You're going to outspeed everything other than, like, Scarf Dragapult. And now if they're physical Scarf Dragapult, they ain't touching you. You got all this defensive bulk. And Heavy Duty Boots. Encore again. Just such a great move. And with your speed, you're going to be able to Encore, like, everything that's not going for, like, Dragon Dance or Agility. Really good. Really good stuff. Yeah, Iron Bundle. It's going to be a menace. You should probably take this in the top 3. If you're one of the teams moving up from the minors, you should take this. If you see this slipping down to number 4, number 5, scoop it up, scoop it up. That's good value. But number 1, we all know. Listen, we only banned 3 Pokemon in our draft league. It was Koraidon, Miraidon, and Fluttermane, which means the People's Champion Palafin Hero. Yeah, 0 to Hero is here. This fish with the bonker stats. I know it's a mammal, it's a dolphin. I'm sorry. All the dolphins are offended because I called them a fish. But listen. Palafin, it can do a few things. But it does them all super well, and its stats are the best you can ask for. Nice bulk, 100 HP. Solid defenses. That 100 base speed, that is always a benchmark. And 160 attack stat. Don't even mind the 106 special attack. Like, that's good too. You can do things with that. I ain't even lying. This thing learns Boom Burst. You could run like Specs Boom Burst, and that ain't bad. Terra Normal. Cook some people. Whatever you want to do, big guy. But listen, Jet Punch. This is one of the things that, listen, the stats make Palafin broken. The pure water typing makes it really good. Jet Punch is what pushes it over the limit. Priority, 60 base power. Water stab. You Terra type water, that's basically 120 base power stab. You're bulking up, you're Drain Punch for recovery, you're taunting the bulky Pokemon that are trying to recover or stall you out or toxic you or burn you. Nope, you're just like taunt. But if you want something a little more bread and butter, you got Choice Band set and you got Choice Scarf set. They both do the same thing. One just hits harder and one just hits faster. Choice Band is probably the better one of these. Just because you want to clean up with your Jet Punches. But this is the set that got Palafin banned. This one, the bulk taunt set, is what got banned. So you can bring this to most of your matches. You'll be good. But yeah, that's our top 10. Again, just for review. Honorable mentions, Corviknight. Just good bread and butter defensive Pokemon. I think it's still the best defensive Pokemon we have right now. There's some good ones too. Clodsire, Garganacl, they're all good, but I think Corviknight's still the best. Annihilate. Get that Rage Fist cooking. You're going to be doing damage. Annihilate. Honorable mention. Number 10, we've got Iron Valiant. It can do a lot of things. It's kind of like a master of every... what is it? Jack of all trades, master of none. But it'll definitely get some people. Like, its stats are still worthy of a top 10. Even if it's not like the best at everything that it does. Torkoal, again, you get the Sun Team. That's when we do the team tier rankings preseason, you're gonna be up there. If you can get Torkoal, something like Scovillain, and a couple of the Paradox Pokemon, like that's a solid team. Number 8, we got the Dragonite. Again, just extreme speed, pushing it over. Like, not a lot of teams are going to be able to survive a late game Terra normal extreme speed. 7, we got Dragapult. Just doing what it did last generation, kind of like Corviknight. Can do a lot of different things. Got that great typing, got that great speed, which is its biggest boon this generation because there are a lot of fast Pokemon. And if you are the fastest, that puts you in a good position when it comes to offense versus offense. Number 6, Qianpao. Just one of the best straight out physical attackers. Again, really good speed. Goldango, just the ability is busted. It's got a good special attack. It's got a good typing, that Steel Ghost. You can do quite a few things with Recover, Nasty Plot, Trick Sets, etc. Number 4, we got Chi-Yu, the special attacking brother of Qianpao, the fish. Again, just not a lot of Pokemon can survive like a Choice Specs Overheat. Not a lot. Great Tusk. I love this Pokemon. Please fall all the way to number 20 for me. I'll take it. It's not going to. It better not. If it does, you're all done. Three-peat. I'm calling it. Great Tusk. Just look at all these sets. These are the most sets I put up. Like, and that's not even scratching the surface. Number 2, Iron Bundle. Again, second fastest Pokemon that we got, other than the Pult. You can run it so many ways. I just love this set. Like, you can do it however you want. Like, put the bulk wherever you need it. If your opponent's team is physical, go like that. If they're special, you know, you can definitely put in here. Like, you're still gonna get cooked, but is what it is. Your Iron Bundle, you ain't taking no shit. And then Palafin Hero #1 again. That just to review. So let me know what you think. Do you think there's a Pokemon that deserves to be in the top 10? Listen, you can't tell me there's a Pokemon that deserves to be like #1 that's not on here. But you can tell me if you think, maybe this Pokemon should have cracked top 10. Maybe this one should have been an honorable mention. Let me know. As always, thanks for watching. Stay classy, society.